You know those urban legends people whisper about during Halloween? The kind that make you laugh, until you realize someone actually tried them? Well, I did. And I wish to God I hadn't. Halloween used to be my favorite night of the year. Growing up, it meant laughter, costumes, and candy so sweet it burned my throat. But as an adult, I discovered there's a darker side to the holiday, a version most people only hear about in ghost stories. I found that out when I accepted the Forbidden Challenge. It all started one cold October evening. The sky was bruised with shades of violet and ember. I was scrolling through an online horror forum called the Night Gallery, a digital haunt for insomniacs and thrill-seekers like me. That's when I saw the post. Dare to play the Forbidden Challenge? Midnight, October 31. No recording, no spectators. Just you, a candle, a mirror, and your courage. Complete it, and you'll never fear death again. The post had no username, just a symbol, a crescent moon with an eye carved into its center. Hundreds of comments followed, half of them calling it fake, the rest begging for details. I don't know why, but something about it hooked me. Maybe it was the promise of something beyond the mundane. Or maybe I just wanted to feel alive again. The post was updated hours later, and the new message sent a chill down my spine. It read: To begin, you must be alone in a place where someone has died. At midnight, light a candle in front of a mirror. Speak your full name 3 times. Then ask, who walks between the shadows tonight? If the candle flickers twice, blow it out immediately. If it doesn't, keep watching. It sounded theatrical, stupid, even. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I told my friends, who laughed it off as an online creepypasta. My best friend, Adam, said, "Man, you've been watching too many found footage movies. Don't go summoning demons just because you're bored." But boredom had nothing to do with it. I was haunted by curiosity. The kind that doesn't let you sleep. So, against every rational thought, I decided to do it. My choice of location was, fittingly tragic. There was an abandoned farmhouse just outside my hometown, a relic from the early 1900s. It had burned down decades ago, leaving behind blackened walls and whispers of its former inhabitants. The locals said a family of 5 died inside when the fire broke out. Perfect for what the challenge demanded, a place where someone had died. The night before Halloween, I drove there. The air was sharp with cold, and the moon hung low, swollen and red. When I stepped inside, the smell of char and decay still lingered after all those years. I set my backpack on the cracked floorboards and pulled out a few essentials, a single white candle, a lighter, my phone for timekeeping, and a small handheld mirror. The clock on my phone read 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until midnight. There's something unnatural about silence in a place that once echoed with life. Every creak of the floor, every sigh of the wind through shattered glass, felt aware. I positioned the mirror on a dusty table, the candle in front of it. My reflection looked pale, tired, almost unrecognizable. I stared at it until the edges of my vision began to blur. 11:59 p.m. I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it might drown out the ticking of the second hand. The candle's flame flickered weakly as if anticipating what was about to happen. Midnight. I spoke my full name aloud. Once. Twice. 3 times. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then, following the post's instruction, I whispered, "Who walks between the shadows tonight?" For a moment, nothing. Just silence thick enough to choke on. Then, the candle flickered. Once. I waited. It flickered again. Relief flooded me. According to the rules, I was supposed to blow it out immediately. So I did. The room plunged into darkness. And that's when I heard a faint scraping noise. Like fingernails dragging across wood. It came from behind me. I froze. Every instinct screamed not to turn around, but the sound was getting closer, slow, deliberate. When I finally spun to look, my flashlight beam cut through the dark, illuminating nothing but empty air and peeling wallpaper. I laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. That's when I noticed the mirror. Something was wrong. My reflection wasn't copying me anymore. I blinked. My reflection didn't. It just stared back, lips curling upward into a grin I wasn't wearing. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. Okay, I muttered, this is some kind of hallucination. I lifted the candle again and relit it, hoping the light would reset whatever trick my mind was playing. But the moment the flame came alive, the reflection whispered. Why did you stop watching? The voice wasn't mine. It was lower, raspier, like something that had been buried for years and just remembered how to speak. My blood turned to ice. I dropped the candle. Darkness swallowed the room again. And in that darkness, something moved. When the candle hit the floor, the flame died instantly, and I was swallowed by blackness. My flashlight rolled somewhere into the shadows, useless. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was expectant. I could feel it, heavy and alive, pressing in from all directions. I forced myself to take slow, shallow breaths. It's just my mind, I whispered. You're tired, you're in a creepy house, that's all. But my reflection's voice still echoed in my skull. Why did you stop watching? I fumbled for my phone, desperate for light, but when I unlocked it, the screen was static, grainy gray fuzz, like an old TV between channels. Then, letters began to bleed through the noise, forming a single message. Don't turn around. Every part of me froze. I didn't move, didn't breathe. But something behind me did. I heard the floor groan, slow and deliberate, as if something heavy was shifting its weight closer. A soft, cold breath grazed the back of my neck. My body locked up. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then, with a shaky motion, I tilted my phone slightly, just enough for its dim light to spill across the broken glass on the table. There, in the mirror, was my reflection, standing directly behind me. But I hadn't moved an inch. Its eyes were wide, mouth stretched into that same impossible grin, skin pale and glossy like wax. It leaned closer until its face was almost pressed to the glass, and though its lips never parted, I heard its voice again, inside my head this time. You called me. You shouldn't have. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over debris. The phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the floor, its light dying as the battery drained to zero. The farmhouse was silent again, except for one thing, faint tapping, coming from the mirror. Tap. 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 As if something on the other side was trying to get out. I bolted out of the house, into the October cold. My lungs burned as I ran to my car. I didn't stop until I was inside, doors locked, shaking. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked normal again, or so I thought. When I wiped the fog from the glass, I noticed something etched faintly in the corner, like a scratch. 3 words. Let me out. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told Adam everything. He didn't believe me, of course. You were in an abandoned house, dude, he said. You scared yourself. That's what horror junkies do. I wanted to agree. I wanted to believe it was all in my head. But later that day, when I looked at the mirror in my bathroom, I saw it again, the faint outline of that grin, appearing behind my reflection for just a split second. I went back to the Night Gallery forum, desperate for answers. The original post about the challenge was gone, deleted entirely. But someone had started a new thread titled, "He's Watching." The user's profile picture was the same crescent moon with the eye symbol. I clicked it. The thread contained only one post. If you completed the challenge and survived, don't look into any mirrors for 7 nights. The one you summoned will try to trade places. If it smiles, it's already too late. I stared at the screen, my heart thudding in my ears. My phone buzzed suddenly. A notification. It was a text from an unknown number. Night 1. That night, I covered every mirror in my apartment. Bathroom, bedroom, even my phone screen turned face down. I taped newspapers over the TV and laptop. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. At exactly midnight, my phone lit up on its own. No ringtone, no vibration, just the screen glowing faintly. I flipped it over, and my blood ran cold. The reflection on the black surface didn't match my movement. It tilted its head the wrong way, smiling that same horrific smile. Then, words appeared in the condensation on my window, drawn by an invisible hand. You shouldn't have blown out the candle. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. When dawn came, I found the candle from the farmhouse sitting on my kitchen counter. I hadn't brought it home. I tried staying with Adam, but he joked that I was overreacting. Fine, he said, if it'll make you feel better, we'll burn the candle and see what happens. He lit it, mocking the ritual. Who walks between the shadows tonight, he said, laughing. The flame flickered. Once. Then again. I told him to blow it out, but he just rolled his eyes. That's when his reflection in the window started smiling. Only Adam wasn't. The grin widened until his reflection's mouth stretched far too wide, splitting into the glass like a crack. The lights flickered, and for one brief second, the reflection moved on its own, reaching out of the window's surface. Adam screamed and threw the candle to the ground. The flame died instantly. When the light steadied, the reflection was gone. Or so we thought. Because later that night, when Adam sent me a selfie to prove he was fine, I saw something in it. Behind him, in the reflection of his TV screen, stood me. Smiling. Even though I was miles away. After what happened to Adam, I tried to convince myself it was all coincidence, a trick of the light, stress, hysteria, anything but real. But denial is a fragile comfort, and mine shattered 2 nights later. I hadn't spoken to Adam since the selfie incident. He wasn't answering calls or messages. I drove to his apartment after work, the air heavy with that peculiar chill that always precedes a storm. When I reached his door, it was slightly open. Inside, the lights were off. The TV glowed faintly, showing static. The smell hit me first, metallic, sharp, and unmistakably wrong. My pulse quickened as I called out, "Adam?" Something shuffled in the dark. The screen flickered once, and for a heartbeat, the static cleared enough to show my own face staring back at me, smiling. Then, the image distorted again. I turned on my phone's flashlight. The apartment looked like a tornado had ripped through it, furniture overturned, mirrors shattered, every reflective surface covered with black cloth. But Adam was nowhere to be found. Only one thing remained untouched, the candle from the ritual. It sat in the middle of the floor, its wax melted into the shape of a handprint. And beneath it, written in ash, were the words. Night 4. That night, the text started again. No number, no name, just words appearing one by one. Stop hiding. It's your turn. Look at me. I deleted them, turned off my phone, and unplugged every device in my apartment. Still, the messages kept appearing, scrawled in the fog of my bathroom mirror, on the reflection of my laptop screen even when it was off. I called the police about Adam's disappearance, but they found nothing, no forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. The detective looked at me strangely when I mentioned the mirror challenge. I stopped talking after that. That night, I slept with the lights on. Or at least, I tried to. I don't remember falling asleep, only waking up in a room that wasn't mine. The air smelled of smoke and wet wood. It was the farmhouse again, except this time it wasn't burned. The walls were clean, the floor polished. And there, standing in front of the mirror, was me. He was humming, softly, tunelessly, while tracing circles on the glass. Then he turned to me and smiled that same stretched, unnatural smile. "You left the door open," he said. "Now I can come through." I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. My reflection reached into his pocket, pulling out something I recognized immediately, my phone. He held it up, showing me a text message I hadn't sent. Night 5. He slipped the phone into his coat, stepped toward the mirror, and pressed his hand against the glass. It rippled like water. And then he stepped through. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, the air around me colder than ice. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I picked it up with trembling hands. It wasn't a message this time, it was a photo. Me. Asleep in bed. Taken from across the room. From that night on, things began to unravel fast. My reflection stopped syncing with me entirely. I'd blink, it wouldn't. I'd move left, it moved right. Sometimes, when I wasn't looking, I'd see it out of the corner of my eye, closer to the surface of the glass every time. I started covering mirrors again, but one night, I came home to find all the coverings ripped down. The mirrors weren't just uncovered, they were clean, polished to a shine. In the center of each, written in condensation, was the same message. Almost ready. I checked my calendar. Halloween was 2 days away. On October 30th, someone knocked on my door. I froze, thinking it was the police, but when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there, just an envelope taped to the door. No return address. Inside was a single photo, the farmhouse, taken at night. The windows glowed faintly orange. Scrawled on the back were 2 words. Midnight. Come home. Every instinct screamed to ignore it. But something deeper, something that didn't feel entirely like me, was pulling me there. The compulsion was overwhelming, like invisible strings tightening around my mind. I told myself I'd just drive past. Just look. But as soon as I saw the house again, I parked. The front door was open, creaking slowly with the wind. Inside, a single candle burned in front of the same mirror where it all began. The glass was no longer cracked. It shimmered like liquid. My reflection stood there, waiting, wearing the same clothes as me, but cleaner, newer, unstained by fear. He smiled gently, almost kindly, as if inviting me closer. You kept running, he whispered. Now it's my turn. I shook my head. No. You're not real. He laughed softly, a sound that felt too human to be denied. If I'm not real, why do I know what it feels like to breathe? He pressed his hand against the inside of the glass. My reflection's palm met mine, only there was no cold surface this time, no barrier. Just warmth. The mirror rippled again. My vision blurred, the air warped. I felt something pull at my chest, hard, and the world flipped inside out. When I woke up, the world felt hollow. The air didn't move the same way, colors looked too sharp, too unreal. I reached up and touched the surface in front of me, smooth, cold, solid. A mirror. But not from the outside. I screamed, but no sound came out, only vibrations in the glass. On the other side, I saw him, the thing that wore my face. He smiled, flexing my hands, testing my voice, my movements. He was me now. I pounded on the inside of the mirror, desperate to get his attention, but he only leaned in and whispered through the surface. You wanted to know what walked between the shadows. Now you do. He turned away, leaving me trapped in a reflection that wasn't mine anymore. Days passed, or maybe hours. Time didn't work the same here. The mirror world was a pale imitation of reality, colorless, silent, endless. Reflections of rooms stretched out in impossible directions, each one empty and echoing. Sometimes I'd see others, people pressed against distant panes of glass, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Their faces twisted with the same horror I felt. I realized, slowly, that this wasn't just a curse. It was a collection. Every soul who had ever completed the forbidden challenge was here, trapped behind their own reflection. And every reflection that replaced them was now free to walk the world. I found a mirror, one that shimmered differently, darker, almost alive. When I touched it, visions flashed through my mind, centuries of faces performing the ritual. Every generation, the same candle, the same phrase, the same question whispered at midnight. Who walks between the shadows tonight? It wasn't a game. It was a doorway. Each person who dared to ask invited a reflection to cross over, to trade places. The ones who blew out the candle fast enough were spared. The ones who didn't, became the newest prisoners in the glass. The challenge had survived through myths, dares, and online legends, all designed to lure in the curious, the fearless, the foolish. Like me. Through the silver haze, I could still see him, the creature wearing my body, living my life. He moved with ease, smiling when people greeted him. But there was something off about his smile, too perfect, too still, like a mask. He visited my friends. He even called my mother, using my voice flawlessly. But every reflection he passed, windows, phones, screens, flickered for just a second, showing what he really was underneath, an eyeless face with a gaping, silent grin that stretched across his skin like a wound. He wasn't pretending to be me. He was becoming me. I don't know how long I stayed there before I noticed the flicker of candlelight again. Someone new had begun the ritual. Through a distant pane, I saw a teenage boy hunched over a mirror in a dark room, whispering the same words I had once spoken. Who walks between the shadows tonight? His candle flickered once. Then again. He hesitated, just like I had. I slammed my fists against the glass, desperate to warn him, my voice finally cracking through the barrier as a faint whisper. Blow it out. Now. For a moment, his eyes widened. He looked directly at me. I saw him gasp, and then he blew the candle out. The room went dark. When the flame died, the glass around me shimmered, rippling like water. I felt a pull, stronger than before. The surface cracked, splintering outward like a spiderweb. Maybe, just maybe, the connection worked both ways. I don't know how I did it. Maybe it was the boy's fear, or maybe the ritual had a flaw. But when I pressed my hands against the glass one last time, the crack spread until the entire world shattered like ice. I fell, through the mirror, through darkness, through screams, and landed hard on cold wooden floorboards. The smell hit me instantly. Smoke. Burnt timber. The farmhouse. The candle flickered beside me, almost burnt out. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror, but this time, it was motionless. Empty. I had made it back. Or at least, I thought I had. Days passed. I tried to live normally again. But something was wrong. My reflection followed my movements perfectly, too perfectly. Every blink, every breath, in perfect sync. Until last night. When I yawned, it smiled. Only it smiled. Then, written in the fog on the mirror this morning, I saw it again, night 1. And my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. Welcome home. The forbidden challenge doesn't end when you stop playing. It ends when you stop being you.